The Trump administration today announced a major change to the country's landmark environmental law, the National Environmental Policy Act, NEPA, proposing that not all infrastructure projects need detailed environmental reviews and that federal agencies don't have to consider climate change in their assessments. Donald Trump made the announcement surrounded by people from industries like construction and trade unions that have long pushed for exactly such a change. It comes at the tail end of just an extremely aggressive agenda to slash environmental regulation from the first day of this administration, including rules on climate and clean water and clean air. At least 95 rules and regulations are being rolled back. Joining me now to talk about what this means, the former administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency under President Barack Obama, current president and CEO of the Natural Resources Defense Council, Gina McCarthy. Let's start with the meaning of what was done today. How important is it what the president announced?
Well, Chris, it's pretty important because NEPA has been a law that's been around for 50 years, and it's all designed to make sure that we understand the implications of big projects that the federal government is involved in, and that we do the best to minimize the pollution associated with that, and we give people a voice. People understand what's happening in their communities, what threats they're going to be exposed to, and they get to participate in the process. What this is all about is excluding more projects from that process, minimizing the ability for people to understand what's going on and being able to comment and get engaged. And really, it's all about making sure that you have to have blinders on and only look at the immediate environmental impacts of, say, a highway construction project, not look at that pesky air pollution that it's going to cause for the communities that are impacted. Don't bother looking at all of the extraction projects or mining projects in a particular area. Just pick that one that's going to be constructed, and let's not worry about the cumulative impacts. So it's all about getting people out of the way. It's all about doing service to polluting industries, and it's all about acting like a dictator instead of we're a democracy, where we get to protect ourselves and understand what's going on.
One part of it that I found particularly striking was sort of excising the requirement to consider climate change. And if you're thinking about big infrastructure projects, like, I don't know, if you're going to build something in downtown Miami or South Florida that's like right near the water, or when there's king tides, it seems to me like you probably should be thinking about what's going to happen to that 12 years from now if sea level rises 6 inches.
Especially when you have a lot of military bases that have been destroyed along the coast and need to rebuild. Are we really going to rebuild those in ways where they're underwater anytime soon?
That's a great point.
Are we not going to look at these implications? It's really ridiculous. And Chris, this is all about the fact that they've had a number of decisions that have been thrown back at them by the federal courts, saying you must look at the implications of climate change for projects like pipelines. You have to do it. This administration doesn't want to, so it's going to say it doesn't have to. But in the end, the law is the law. The courts will prevail, and we will have to do the job we have to do to speak out and make sure that the law is being implemented and that our ability to speak and know what's going on is protected.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.